Alright, good morning YouTube. Drax here, if you don't remember who I am. Yes, I've dusted off the Warrior. I've come back after a 10-month hiatus, and I'm ready to own some pandas. So if you're like me, you've probably come back and hopped on the Warrior and tried to go to town, doing your old school PV rotations, and not having any success with it. Warriors are completely different right now, in my opinion, and when I first hopped on my Warrior, I really did not like it. It seemed very odd to me, but the more I played it, the more I got used to it. So what has changed? Well, there's no Rend. Rend is gone. As you can see, there's still Taste for Blood, but its mechanic is a lot different. It increases the damage of your heroic strike now, and you're probably thinking like, oh, well, who cares, you know? I hardly ever have rage for heroic strike. Well, rage is also a different mechanic now. Your mortal strike generates rage, along with, you know, depending on your stance, attacks and whatnot. Or if you're in defensive stance, you have a passive rage regeneration. Overpower and Colossus Smash do not use Rage, so those are kind of like your three primary abilities. And what I mean by that is Slam and Heroic Strike cost you Rage to use. So those are kind of like your Rage dumps, whereas Overpower, Colossus Smash, and Mortal Strike, they all build Rage for you, well, in a sense. They don't consume Rage. So you could use those three abilities non-stop, just spam them on cooldown, with Colossus Smash being your priority, Overpower being your second, Mortal Strike being your third, and hope to get some high stacks of Taste for Blood. So we're at 5 stacks right now. We pop our offensive cooldowns, and we get massive crits. Yes. 316,000 damage heroic strike with 5 stacks of Taste for Blood. Pretty significant. So what this does for my rotation, like I just kind of said, we have Colossus Smash always on your target. Overpower is your next priority, but you have to Mortal Strike or get a crit for Overpower to work. When those are on cooldown, I use Slam over Heroic Strike because I want to build up my stacks. I want to get that burst damage from my Taste for Blood. And I'm not going to go through it again. You just saw, you know, how the stacking of the Taste for Blood work. But that's pretty much it. I don't try to get 5 stacks every time, and sometimes it could be cutting it too close, trying to get a Mortal Strike and an Overpower to build an extra stack. So the rule of thumb I use is if I have 3 stacks of Taste for Blood, I will use it on a Heroic Strike, and I'll try to use it with like some burst cooldowns. I'll try to set up like a mini burst. You know how in my other videos I talked about the 2-minute burst and 5-minute burst. This, it's kind of like random. So like once you build it up, you know, build up your Taste for Blood, then those are kind of like your mini 2-minute bursts. And then your 5-minute burst is absolutely ridiculous. And I'll show you why. What am I doing here? Alright. Talents. So, Recklessness, obviously, no longer causes you to take extra damage. It's a 50% crit for 12 seconds, flat out. That is so amazing. I don't know about you guys, but I was always kind of like nervous to pop Reck most of the time because people would focus you and you would die really fast. So 50% chance to crit. You drop that with one of the new abilities, Skull Banner, which is 20% increased crit damage. If you play Diablo 3, the crit damage and crit chance, it's very similar. So Recklessness would be your crit chance, and that would be your crit damage. Also, Avatar, you pop that. 20% increased damage flat out. An extra 30% rage regen, so you could spam more heroic strikes and slams. And also you can't be stopped. So you can't be rooted or snared. That's significant. That pretty much means you have full uptime on your target during your 5-minute burst. If you can't kill someone with your 5-minute burst, you have your little charge stun, you have blanket silence from pummel, blanket silence from heroic throw, and shockwave, which yes, you could get in arms now. You have a lot of utility and a lot of damage. So warriors are looking very good right now. Here is your talent tree. It's a lot different than it was before. Some people argue the uses of double time. I really dislike double time, and the reason I dislike it is you could use 2 charges in a row. Only one of them will generate rage, but after you use the second one, it puts it on a 20-second cooldown. It's really inconvenient. I don't really like it. Warbringer adds an extra stun. I do not know if that shares DR with Shockwave. Haven't tried it. I actually really like the 12-second charge. It's very useful. It feels much more like the older warriors with their charge. The next tier is like a healing tier, and you have your enrage regen, which is 60 rage, or it's free if you are enraged, which, you know, of course, we had to be enraged to use it before anyway, so I think we're all pretty much used to popping Berserker Rage and then enrage regen. But I don't really like the 10% with the 10% hot. I feel it's really minuscule. I think it's kind of insignificant. Second Wind is my #1 favorite choice. I think it's pretty much gonna be the top pick for everyone. When you're below 35% health, you gain 3% of your health back per second, and when you're stunned or immobilized, you gain rage. That heal is really, really good. If you're below 35% health and you know, just like leap away, line of sight a little bit, or whatever, or just leap out of their range, since, you know, leap is pretty far, you will heal back up to 35% rather quickly. Impending Victory lets you, no, I don't want to change it. It lets you use your Victory Rush whenever you want, but it's only a 10% heal on a 30-second cooldown. It's actually, I tried it out for a while. I really didn't like it. The heal did not save me at all. It didn't make any difference, it seemed like. 10%'s pretty small. I mean, granted, I have a lot bigger health pool now than when I tried it, but in comparison, Second Wind is just so much better. Your next tier is kind of like a CC tier. You have Staggering Shout, which causes everyone in 20 yards that's snared to be rooted. That could be very useful in certain comps. Maybe if you're running Warrior Mage Pally or something, that would probably be pretty useful. I really like Piercing Howl, especially because it kind of replaces Hamstring for me right now. Both of them cost 10 rage, so it costs the same, except for Piercing Howl is 15 yards and it's AoE. They both slow for the exact same amount and the same duration. Disruption Shout, it's kind of like another interrupt, I guess. That's pretty situational for me. I really like the Piercing Howl. I'm really used to it. So, I mean, that's the one I chose. Blade Storm, I mean, pretty much the only time I ever used Blade Storm before is either Sweeping Strikes, Recklessness, Blade Storm on a bunch of guys in BGs, or to avoid getting cloned in arenas. Shockwave is very, very useful as arms. It's decent damage, and the AoE stun is unreal. It really gives warriors a lot of utility as arms now. So I think, you know, last season it was pretty much unheard of for an arms warrior to go into rated battlegrounds. I don't think that'll be the case this time around. I think we have a lot more utility than we used to, and I think we'll actually be quite viable as DPS. Dragon's Roar, It's a lot of damage, but it's a really long cooldown, 1 minute. And, you know, if you do the math, 3 shockwaves, even 2 shockwaves, just as much or more damage than Dragon's Roar, but you can get 3 shockwaves off, and it's, you know, has a stun component. This has a little knockback, who cares? Mass Spell Reflect, pretty good in certain situations. 1 minute cooldown, don't really like it. Safeguard, give an ally 20% shield wall every 30 seconds for 6 seconds. This is definitely my talent of choice. I think it's much more useful than the other two. And Vigilance, you could take 30% of the damage that an ally is going to take for 12 seconds. Probably not that good for arms, especially in arenas. This is kind of like your elite skill. Stormbolt is an AoE, or not AoE, it's a range stun that has 100% weapon damage attached to it. I am not sure if that shares cooldown with Shockwave or Warbringer, so I can't really tell. I automatically assume that it would share cooldown with Shockwave, or not cooldown, but DR, so I haven't even tried that. Bloodbath. For 12 seconds, your melee attacks deal 30% extra damage as a bleed, and when they're bleeding, they move 50% slower, so it automatically applies hamstring, I guess. 1 minute cooldown. I think it has a potential to be a lot of damage, but if you don't have good uptime, then it's probably not worth it. And in comparison to Avatar, it really doesn't matter. I mean, 20% flat damage, 20% more flat damage, while generating 30% more rage, and not being able to be snared or rooted. Avatar is definitely my choice. What else is new? We have these banners, and I kind of showed you at the beginning when I popped it. This one is your crit damage. Mocking Banner is kind of like a taunt banner, so you would think, probably not all that useful in arenas. Oh, but it is. So you have this macro, and you could intervene to your own banner. Yes. Very useful. I'm actually going to put this in the comments. This macro actually took me a long time to figure out and get it right, but basically, show tooltip, Mocking Banner, target Mocking Banner, cast Safeguard, target last target, and then cast Mocking Banner. This will allow you to hit it, it'll put the reticle on the ground, you click, and then hit it again to intervene it. Very useful if you are trying to gain some distance. You can either use it to get away or to get closer, you know, to get in range to charge someone. And then your third banner is kind of like a mini shield wall banner. AoE shield wall banner, I guess, in a sense, but it works as the opposite. You could ground target that anywhere, and these guys will be doing 10% less damage. So it doesn't necessarily make you take 10% less damage, but they do 10% less damage. So that's it for banners. The other thing I want to touch on about banners while we're talking about them, Mocking Banner and Demoralizing Banner are ground target, whereas Skull Banner is not. So your Skull Banner you could easily macro in with like your Recklessness or your 5-minute burst macro. So it uses my trinkets, which, you know, are just nothing right now. They're just Brewfest crap trinkets. Cast Battle Stance. I like to be in Battle Stance most of the time unless I'm going defensive. And my Shield Wall macro puts me in defensive stance. The reason defensive stance is so great, and it's actually really good for arms even, is it's flat 25% reduced damage. So that's really important. Plus it gives you the passive rage regen. It's not as much rage regen as Battle Stance, which is why I typically use Battle Stance if I'm not getting attacked. But even if one guy attacks me, I will put it into the defensive stance. Then of course you cast your Avatar for the 20% damage, Skull Banner for your 20% crit damage, Deadly Calm now makes your Heroic Strikes cost 10 less rage. and then Recklessness is your 50% crit. So all those work really well together, and that's pretty much it for your macros. One other ability that you have that's completely new is Die by the Sword. It's a really good defensive ability. It increases your parry chance by 100% and reduces damage taken by 20% for 8 seconds. Cycling your cooldowns, Rallying Cry, Shield Wall, Spell Reflect, your 2 silences, your Stun, your Fear, Die by the Sword. There's so many defensive abilities you could use. I find it really, really hard to die in arenas now, or not arenas, arenas aren't out, but like battlegrounds or general PvP. Overall, I'm really liking the way the Warriors are. It's taken me a while to get used to, but now that I've played it quite a bit, definitely pretty excited about hitting up some arenas this season. Trying to get the old Gucci Priest back into WoW. I think he may be picking up Mr. Pandaria this weekend, and we'll be getting him leveled up. And I will try to be streaming every night from 10 p.m. to midnight. Also with additional random times thrown in there, maybe a little more on weekends or a little more during the weeknights, but I'm trying to stick to those specific times. If you want to know when I'm on during off hours, you could always subscribe to my stream, and I'll see you in the game. Enjoy, guys.